The NHL Entry Draft finally begins tomorrow, and the Calgary Flames are in a prime position to take the first cornerstone stud of the next generation that will lead the Flames into a large window of contention for the Stanley Cup. Now, there are a million ways this draft could go, so many different possibilities, but there are three names in particular that always seem to be going to the Flames at the 9th overall pick in so many mock drafts, and we will be looking at those three and trying to make a decision on what we think the Flames should do if any or all of these players are available. But before we get into that, I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. And speaking of family, we're going to be adding someone to the Calgary Flames family tomorrow, and everyone's super excited about it. And like I said, there's three names that are really, in all the mock drafts, these three seem to come up for the Calgary Flames at the 9th overall pick. And the first one is probably the best player of the bunch, and that is Cayden Lindstrom. Yes, he is an absolute stud, has been killing it over in Medicine Hat for the Tigers in the WHL. And funnily enough, all the players in this video are WHL players. The WHL's kind of been on a heater lately. I mean, we saw Bedard last year. We've seen some great players come out of the dub in recent history. But yes, Lindstrom, of course, absolutely tore it up for Medicine Hat this past season and the past couple seasons, really, I should say. But before we get into his actual hockey stats, we need to take a look at some of his Cayden Lindstrom facts here from Elite Prospects. It's what we love to do around here. So he is 18 years old. He's a Canadian boy, of course. And what's very important here about Lindstrom is that his position says center, because a lot of the players in this draft, if they're a forward, it says forward. It doesn't necessarily say center or winger. For Lindstrom, he is an actual center, and I think that's what the Flames need most right now. I know the Flames would be happy to take a center. They'd be happy to take a defenseman for sure. And I will say right now, I will not be disappointed at all if the Flames do decide to take a defenseman, because there are so many good ones in this draft, especially high up in this draft. So if they do take a defenseman, that's great. We're not going to be looking at any defenseman in this video. We've kind of done that in the past already. There are some great ones that I'm sure will be available with the 9th pick. But just for this video's sake, we're going to be focusing on people who could potentially be centers for the Flames in the future. Now, Lindstrom, like I said before, he is an actual center. He's big too. He's 6'3", and he's got some poundage on him. He is a very, very good prospect here. I am not 100% certain he will be available with the 9th overall pick. He's that good. But either way, it is a great option. If we take a little look at his stats here from the past few seasons in his WHL career, this season, 46 points in 32 games, almost a goal per game with 27 in those 32. He is an absolute stud. Last season, pretty good stats as well for a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old. And, he's always had a positive plus minus, and he is not afraid to play a bit of a more aggressive game, a more rugged, strong, rough game, I guess we can say, as you can see there with the penalty minutes. So he does a little bit of everything. He can score, he can hurt you, he's got it all. And I think this is a great option for the Flames if he is available, because he really is a bona fide center and a bona fide stud. I know some of those stats might not be the most eye-popping, and a lot of people will say, why did he only play that many games? Does he have injury issues? What's going on here? The answer is, look, he's still very young, has so much potential, and would be a great pick for the Flames. He's just so good, so big, and just a natural scorer. I think Lindstrom is a great option here. Now, if we move into the next man who's always in these kind of mock drafts, it is Berkly Catton, of course, this man of the Spokane Chiefs. Another one in the WHL, of course. Spokane, also known as Canada at certain times. Go Zags. Either way, Berkly Catton, also a great prospect here and could very well be a Calgary Flame by the end of tomorrow evening. He is just really, really good. Let's take a quick look at his facts from Elite Prospects. So once again, He is an 18-year-old, a little bit older than Lindstrom, but not by much. He's from Saskatoon, another good Canadian boy, and he's not quite as big. Now, he's 5'11", 174 pounds, could definitely afford to put on a little bit of poundage there. It's always nice to have more weight and just be a little bit stronger. So Berkly Catton, not quite as rough and tough, kind of big, a huge menace on the ice like a Lindstrom, but still very good and extremely, extremely skilled. And as we can see here from his stats in his past couple seasons, this guy is just a point-producing machine. 116 points this kid had in just 68 games with the Chiefs this season. 54 goals, 62 assists. I mean, really, when it comes to point production, he can do it all as well. Even last season, 55 points in 63 games for a 16/17-year-old is so good. He was on a pretty donkey team in Spokane. He finished with a -36. You can't really blame him there. But either way, he is really, really good, and he has some great NHL comparisons. I'm sure you can make a few, but the fact that he's not the biggest guy but can still produce, he's not small either. It's not like Johnny Gaudreau, He's still 5'11", which isn't exactly tiny. He's a really, really good option as well. And if he does fall to the Flames, well, we say fall, if he ends up being the 9th overall pick and goes to the Flames, I don't think anyone would be disappointed as well in the Sea of Red. He is a fantastic option. Between Lindstrom and Catton, I'm already having issues deciding which one would be better for the team. But of course, there's one more man we need to take a look at, and it is Tij Iginla. I can't even say man. The guy's still 17 years old. He's still a kid. But Tij, we talk about him all the time. Every single person in the fan base knows exactly who he is. Of course, son of Jarome Iginla. But he's got more than that just to his name. He might be the son of an NHL legend, but he's making a name for himself as well. If we quickly look into his facts here from Elite Prospects, like I said, he's still only 17 years old, won't turn 18 until August. Once again, obviously a Canadian. So hopefully, the reason why I point out their nationalities, because a lot of the time Americans come here and then don't want to be here anymore. You would assume most Canadians are fine playing in a Canadian market, especially Tij Iginla, who spent a lot of his childhood here in Calgary. But either way, here, position, it does say left wing. There's rumblings that he could be a center. I forgot to mention that about Catton as well. His, I'm pretty sure, says forward, but there's a chance he could be a center. With some development, could be a center in this league, but let's focus on Tij again. So he's a little bit bigger than Catton. He's kind of in between the two of Lindstrom and Catton in terms of size and dimension. So he's 6 foot, 192 pounds, not short, but not exactly huge on the ice. And he's not a twig, but he's not, an absolute meathead or anything either. 192 pounds, that's pretty good. I'm sure he'll add some muscle as his career continues. I mean, we all know what Jerome's quads were looking like. I'm sure Tij will reach that in no time with today's nutrition and such. But either way, Tij, he's got some great dimensions. We've talked about him a ton. Let's quickly dive into his stats as well. So this past season with Kelowna, he absolutely erupted for 47 goals in 64 games. His stock went crazy. As you can see there, 284 points total, well over a point per game in 35 penalty minutes. Looks a lot like some numbers that his father would put up, which is crazy because last season and the season before in Seattle, it's not like he did all that much. He wasn't given nearly as much playing time as he was this season over in Kelowna. He was kind of just given the reins in Kelowna this season, and he totally went crazy. He is such a good player as well, and it's going to be so hard to decide between the three. If let's just hypothetically say all three are available for the Flames, which one should they take? I mean, I would be shocked if all three are still on the board by the 9th pick. But either way, let's just say in a hypothetical world, all three are still on the same team. Who would we choose? What is the verdict here? And it is a tough decision to make. I can see why Craig Conroy has kind of been beaten around the bush, not talking to the media quite as much as some of the other general managers have been. And it's going to be a tough decision because Flames fans, they want Tij. Well, I should say for the most part, they want Tij. The other side, of course, are just happy to bring in any one of these kids and turn them into just great men and great hockey players that can help us down the line in the future. But before I make my decision of who I think, I wanted to consult real quick an article written by my old mentor at Sportsnet for my old internship back in the day. And I wanted to see what good old Pat Steinberg had to say about it. So let's see here. He was asked a question. Which center do you think would be a better fit for the Flames between Catton and Lindstrom, provided they're both still on the board at 9? So what did Steinberg have to say about this? He said, I'll preface this answer with an important qualifier. I'm not a scout and I rely on the experts to form an opinion, just like myself. That said, if the choice at 9th overall were to come down to Cayden Lindstrom of the Medicine Hat Tigers or Berkly Catton of the Spokane Chiefs, I'm leaning slightly towards the former. So he kind of is thinking a little bit of Lindstrom here. Let's see what he had to say. Lindstrom's combination of size and skill down the middle is intriguing, especially for an organization in dire need of a franchise center. And that's no slight towards Catton, who's coming off a 54-goal season as an 18-year-old. While neither are locks to play center at the highest level, I think most Flames fans would be thrilled with either Catton or Lindstrom. So he didn't necessarily quite say, one or the other. He said he'd lean towards Lindstrom, and you know what? I would too, based solely on the fact that he is a center, and that is his natural position, and he will be playing there in the NHL. We can almost assuredly assume he will. Now throw Tij into the equation too, and what's the verdict? I genuinely, as much as I love Tij and I want him to become a Calgary Flame, I think the best player of the three available is Cayden Lindstrom. That being said, let's just say, if all three are available, I'm going Cayden Lindstrom if I'm Craig Conroy. But that being said, I'm so happy with any of these three players. I think my heart, of course, wants Tij the most. My head wants Lindstrom. But genuinely, as a Flames fan, I'd be happy with any one of these guys or any of the defensemen. Honestly, as long as we just don't do something absolutely silly and draft, a goalie or some player no one has heard about before, I'm a happy guy. I will be happy to welcome in any of these guys. I know you guys feel that way too, but I'm just saying, I think Lindstrom is the best of the bunch here for the Flames and their current situation. Now let's wrap up this video with the comment of the day. And this one has to do with, what the Flames could do in the offseason with trades, with free agency. What are some potential moves? And this one was very, very interesting here from this user, Bo491. And he said, food for thought. What a great way to start a comment. Food for thought. Why don't we overpay Jonathan Marchessault on the hopes he can bring Huberdeau back to better form and trade them both on deadline deals? Marchessault played with Hubie and scored 30-some goals in Florida before becoming a misfit. That's an option. Honestly, it's not too far out of the question to bring in Jonathan Marchessault. These guys have almost the exact same names. Jonathan Marchessault, Jonathan Huberdeau. It seems like they're meant to be together. They seem to be meant to be overpaid together, and it could happen. Is it the best thing the Flames can do? No, of course not, but it is an option. And it might not be this deadline, but down the road, they could go for something. But either way, I thought this was a very, very interesting comment for sure. Thank you so much for giving us this one. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you like what you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.